Today, we're diving into a really dark but absolutely pivotal chapter in American history, the rise of the Ku Klux Klan right after the Civil War during a period called Reconstruction.
So, the Civil War finally ends. The cannons fall silent. You'd think the nation could finally start to heal, right? Well, not exactly. The end of the war wasn't an end to the fighting. It was actually the beginning of a brand new and, in some ways, even scarier conflict. A fight over what freedom would actually mean in America.
In this period, known as Reconstruction, was just filled with this incredible sense of hope and the possibility of radical change. The idea wasn't just about rebuilding cities and farms. It was about forging a totally new, more just society from the ashes of slavery, and finally welcoming millions of newly freed African Americans as equal citizens.
Now, this promise wasn't just talk. It was backed by some serious legal muscle. In just 5 years, 3 huge amendments were added to the Constitution. First, the 13th, which officially abolished slavery. Done. Then the 14th, which granted citizenship to every single person born in the U.S. I mean, that was revolutionary. And finally, the 15th, protecting the right to vote for black men. These weren't small tweaks, you guys. These were constitutional earthquakes, and they were designed to completely shatter the foundations of the Old South.
But as you can imagine, progress that big, that fast, it never goes unanswered. For a lot of people who refused to accept this new world, the law wasn't something to be respected. It was an enemy to be destroyed. And this is where our story takes a really violent turn. The most infamous group leading this violent resistance was, of course, the Ku Klux Klan. It was founded in 1865, the very same year the war ended, by a group of former Confederate soldiers. And while it might have tried to pass itself off as some kind of harmless social club, it very quickly became what it truly was, a paramilitary terrorist group with one single mission: to strangle the era of Reconstruction in its cradle.
And let's be crystal clear about their goals. They were brutally simple. 1, maintain white supremacy at all costs. 2, resist and tear down these new Reconstruction laws. 3, put white politicians back in total control of the South. And how were they going to do all that? Through pure, calculated intimidation, aimed right at African Americans and any white person who dared to support them.
So their method wasn't going to be politics or debate. No, they chose a much darker path. It was a vicious, calculated campaign of terror, designed to literally scare this new, more equal America out of existence before it could even learn to stand on its own 2 feet.
And that's the key thing to understand. It wasn't just about the acts of violence themselves. The violence was a tool. The real weapon, the one they used to devastating effect, was fear. They wanted to make black citizens too terrified to vote, too scared to go to school, too afraid to own land, too afraid to even ask for the rights they were now guaranteed by the Constitution.
And their tactics were horrifyingly systematic. We're talking about lynchings and brutal beatings, often done in public to send a message. They burned down homes, schools, and churches, anything that was a symbol of black progress and community. They conducted these terrifying night raids in their infamous disguises, designed to create chaos and terror while they hid their own identities. This was an all-out assault on progress.
And if you look at who they targeted, you see the strategy. It wasn't random. They went after black voters for having the courage to use their political voice. They went after teachers for the simple, radical act of educating black children. They attacked ministers and community leaders, the people building a new future. And they hunted down their white allies too, people they called carpetbaggers and scalawags, federal agents, anyone who believed in what Reconstruction was trying to do.
For a while, this campaign of terror just spread like wildfire, and it seemed like nothing could stop it. But eventually, the federal government was forced to act. They realized this wasn't just some local Southern problem. This was a fight for the very soul of the United States.
So you have this massive showdown. On one side, you've got the Klan's campaign of violence and intimidation, actively trying to tear down local governments. And on the other side, you have the U.S. government finally fighting back. Congress passed a set of laws called the Enforcement Acts, which basically made Klan violence a federal crime. And this was huge, because it gave President Ulysses S. Grant the power to send in federal troops to stop them.
And you know what? For a time, it actually worked. The federal response was strong and decisive. By the mid-1870s, thousands of Klansmen had been arrested, and the first version of the Ku Klux Klan was effectively broken. It was a major victory for the rule of law.
But here's the tragic twist. Even though the organization was dismantled, the ideas, the hatred, and the fear they had sowed, that didn't just disappear. The Klan's reign of terror, even though it was pretty brief, ended up casting this long, devastating shadow over the future of the entire country.
Because even in their defeat, in many ways, the Klan had already won. Their violence had severely weakened the entire Reconstruction project. It wore down the political will in the North to keep protecting black citizens. It terrorized whole communities into political silence for generations. And it directly, tragically, paved the way for the whole system of segregation and Jim Crow laws that would dominate the South for another century.
So when you look back, the legacy of this first Klan is a really chilling lesson. It proved that laws written down on paper, no matter how righteous, are not enough. It showed that organized domestic terrorism could be used as a political weapon to completely overturn legal and social progress.
Which leaves us with a question that feels just as urgent today as it was 150 years ago. You can pass all the laws you want guaranteeing equality. But if those laws are met with violent resistance, how is justice actually protected on the ground? It's a powerful reminder that the fight for civil rights isn't just about getting laws passed. It requires constant courage, constant enforcement, and constant vigilance.